future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Thank you to everyone for joining in for today's show. I'm your host, Ron Frierson. This is another edition of Focus with Ron Frierson. And yeah, that happened.
Yeah, unbelievable.
This is not a dream. This is not, some sort of nightmare. It's not some illusion. That really happened. For many of us, that thing that we thought was unthinkable, it happened. During the course of the show, Woody and I, we're going to go through all of the reasons why it happened. Lots of times we want to be very simple and simplistic, and this is very complex. This is extremely complex. It's not all racism. It's not all classism. It's not all immigration. It's everything, including Hillary, and including some of the things that the Democrats have been done in the past. It's the culmination of everything, and now we have to pay the piper. And I'm going to have Woody join in just a second. But first things first, these riots that are going on, what I would like to know from every rioter is, did you vote? Because if you didn't vote, or if you're one of those Bernie or bust people,
sit your ass down.
If you're one of those people that felt, apathetic, like in my home state of Michigan, wherein Hillary lost by 27,000 votes, but had everybody voted in the black community, she would have won. Or in Milwaukee County in Wisconsin, where there was a razor-thin margin as well, and had the black vote turned out the same way they turned out in 2012, she would have won Wisconsin. Same thing in Philadelphia. So my people, the black culture, let's just say this, I don't want to hear nothing if you didn't vote, because we turned out in less numbers in 2012 than we did this year. Had we turned out the same way in 2012, she would have won Wisconsin, she would have won Michigan, and she would have won Pennsylvania. And then we would not have a President Trump. But that didn't happen. So if you ever think about whether or not your vote counts, you have your answer. Now, the last thing before Woody comes in, we need to just accept it. Donald Trump is our president. Donald Trump is my president. And because we love this country, this is why we want him to do well. So, again, I got my co-host and my brother Woody Wilson here with me.
Hey, Ron. Unbelievable, right?
It is unbelievable.
I mean, we're living in some times, folks. These times will be written in history depending upon who writes it as favorable times or unfavorable times. But, watching the election results, my stomach started to feel a sickening feel.
Yeah.
I had to turn the television off, and I just prayed it was a nightmare and I'd wake up and Hillary would come through. But, once you start to analyze and really look into what happened, as you said, it goes deep. There's a lot of reasons why it happened. But you mentioned two states, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Wayne County, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Those were two very obvious points of reasons why she lost, down by 11,000 votes in Wayne County, and Milwaukee, 27,000. So it was a thin margin. But as you said, folks who did not get out and vote, you should not be marching. If you're out there marching, you didn't vote, sit down.
Yeah.
Go home, sit down, shut up and just wait to see what happens because you don't have a voice.
That's right. And I wanted to include in that same number the people that went out there and voted for a third-party candidate. If you went out there and voted for Gary Johnson or Jill Stein,
good for you.
You know good and well that those two were not in contention. Every vote for a third-party candidate. See, because the one thing that Hillary, of the many things that Hillary didn't do well, she didn't really say what she would do. She just spoke about how bad of a President Trump. And we all did that. We didn't speak about what the Democrats would do and should do because they didn't preach the message like that, like they should. President Obama, 15 of the states that President Obama won, she lost. Okay?
Well,
so 15 of those states, so turnout was lower, but also President Obama, he was speaking aspirational on what we can do as a Democratic Party for and speaking onto economic issues. And she was basically spent, especially towards the latter parts of the campaign, she was talking about Trump and how bad of a president. And we all agree that he was a bad president, but speak about what you're going to do as well.
I don't really think that, we shouldn't. The folks that are running for the office of the President of the United States should not necessarily have to motivate you to get out and vote. You should vote regardless. It is your duty, and you should vote. Just because Obama ran because the country was suffering. We were at almost a Great Depression. We were in a recession, and people wanted a change, and Obama seemed to be the guy that could fit to make it happen, and he did. And now the country's just fed up with politics because Congress would not work with Obama. We didn't get things done. And then there's people can complain about whatever their issues are with politics or with the current president. But the fact of the matter is people got fed up. So the Republican Party went from a Chardonnay party to a Budweiser party overnight.
Well,
these folks, I'm talking about these folks that came out and voted for Donald Trump, that came out of the rural areas, that decided to show their voice, that hadn't shown their voice before in previous years, that didn't get counted in the polls. I mean, and you have to wonder if these folks elected Donald Trump based on the bigotry message that he was spouting, or if they just stuck to their party and voted Republican.
Okay, so
it's kind of hard to dissect the line between.
Yeah, so
what
this is
the
thing we're saying that's complicated. Okay, and it is very complicated because some people may have bought into the bigotry, and some people didn't vote for Donald because of racism, but despite his racism, because he also seemed to be effective. And again, in certain respects, some of these blue collar communities have been told by the Democratic Party for generations that we're going to fix the manufacturing sector. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And they haven't done it. And again, and even in those places, had the turnout been equal to what it was in 2012, in just those three states, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, and in Pennsylvania, had the African-American turnout been what it was in 2012, that would have put her over top. We're talking about razor-thin margins. The one thing that we need to realize, and this is why I say it's complicated, because I have very, very close friends who I love who have told me they voted for Trump. They say for economic reasons, many of them, or they say for reasons that they just couldn't stand Hillary, which is another factor. There's a toxic soup, and all of the ingredients went into it that made this possible. One of those things is what Woody talked about, was bigotry, either hidden or overt bigotry. Another thing is Democrats kind of not doing what they say they're going to do once they're in power. Sometimes we've been taken, it used to be that we were for the working man, the Democrats, like Woody said, somehow that's flipped, and now Republicans seem to be for the working man, and the Democrats seem to be corporatist Democrats, so to speak, meaning we're liberal in regards to right to life, and we're or pro-choice, I should say, or we're liberal in regards to gay marriage. But when it comes to certain jobs and deals, we're not, because we are for certain trade deals, and we shouldn't be. And I think it's just a total amalgam of just stuff that we didn't do, that they did, including the hatred for Hillary, that resulted in what we saw on Tuesday night. And Woody, like you said, as these results were rolling in, it was a weird feeling. It was weird. because he scares me. I'm not going to lie, he scares me.
So then they talk about the transition of Donald Trump into the White House, and he and Obama had a cordial, and I always watch Fox News because I want to always know what the other side is thinking, and the conversations was centered around, I hope Obama welcomes him, and there's a smooth transition, as if there was going to be anything else from our president Barack Obama. But I watched that, and I know they spent about an hour and a half together, and I got the impression that Donald Trump did not think he could do it. I think he entered the race originally not thinking that he was going to be elected the president of the United States. I could be wrong, but I think as this progressed and all the trouble and turmoil he got into along the way, just kind of solidified that, hey, you know what, this would be great to run, but I may not win. I'm sure he was shocked and surprised that he won, just like the rest of the world.
May be.
And so real quick, I'll finish this thought process here. So having him sit down with Obama for an hour and a half, and then come out of that meeting having second thoughts about just reversing Obamacare's first day in office. I think Obama was able to really communicate to him, hey, listen, this is a great impact you're going to have here on the world, and every decision that you make, especially with Obamacare, will affect 20 million people. So I'm hoping this guy, because he likes to be liked, will look at people marching and understand, hey, I've got to pull back the reins a little bit.
The thing is that, in my opinion, is that the way that Donald won, he played dirty pool. The way that he won is the issue. He won fair and square.
He won fair and square.
We can't, deny that. Those of us that didn't want him to win, we lost. We got to suck it up and deal with it. You lost.
We didn't vote.
We know many of us didn't vote. Now, all that being said, the way he won, that's why these protests are in the street. It's because if you think about it, we never had a presidential candidate of a major party in recent times that has used more vitriolic language, has come out saying things that he said against, Muslims, coming out saying the things he said against Mexicans. And now a person that comes out and says these types of things, he now has power to enforce that stuff. And so many people have anxiety because they wonder whether or not he's going to do what he said he would do in the campaign. The stuff he said about nuclear weapons. And remember, I have friends that they vote for him strictly because of his economic policy. And they think he can get the economy going. Well, to have an economy, you have to have a country, too. So if he says something off the hinges and next thing you know, starts a war somewhere. So that's why we are hoping that this rhetoric that he used was just that. Hopefully he was some mad genius and he just said what he needed to say. I'm hoping this.
Well, mad
that
genius,
he said what he needed to say just to bring in certain segments of the population so he can get a critical mass of people that will vote against their own interests and think that he can, he would. One thing for certain, he's not a bought candidate. No, that's one thing. He is not beholden to the Republicans because a lot of them turned their backs on him. He's not beholden to many special interests because they thought he's a lost cause. So many of them did not root for him or contribute to him. He paid for a lot of himself, and obviously he doesn't have hardly any Democrats on the side. So one good thing about him is that we don't have to worry about him having to pander to any special interests. But the bad thing about him is that it's him. It's the wild card. It's the person that still to this day sent out a tweet against the protesters. You the president-elect now. It's time out for tweeting stuff like that. It's time for you to chill. You need to be a little more presidential. And I'm sure he learned some things. You said that him and President Obama spent
hour and a half.
And there was no staff around. It's just those two. Now, I understand that the reason that happened was because of after FDR got voted to his fourth term in office, he pretty much died right away. And I think it was Truman or Eisenhower. I think it was Truman. Truman took over and didn't know anything because President Roosevelt just died and he had no way of knowing what was what and have a transition. So ever since then, the president always, takes the president elect into the White House and kind of briefs them, just those two, and tell them a little bit about the office, about what to expect.
And they get national security briefings now.
Yeah, they get national security briefings now.
Is being brought up to speed on what's happening around the world.
Yeah.
So day one in office, he can make some effective changes.
So maybe that conversation kind of opened up Trump's eyes as to the seriousness of this position. I hope. I really do.
Well, I look at this I try to put myself in someone else's shoes at all times whenever I'm looking at both sides of the argument. So I put myself in Trump's shoes, for example. Here I am, how old is Trump?
70.
70-year-old man, billionaire, on cruise control. I'm running my corporation. I've got my puppets in place, and everything is being handled. I'm good. I can fly anywhere in the world with my family. Now all of a sudden, I'm the president of the United States. And every waking moment, I'm reading about a potential decision, making a decision that are going to affect lives and affect jobs. Those decisions that you make, those two primary repercussions will be jobs and lives. And so the weight of the world is now on my shoulders. So I'm waking up. I'm going in for these Secret Service briefings. I'm talking to President Obama. I'm touring the White House. And I'm saying to myself, what have I gotten myself into?
I'm sure that at some point during the whole process, he had to do that. The issue, but you know what? I was thinking about this earlier today, and we're going to go through a few steps here. But I was thinking about this. You expect a pig to grunt. You expect a cow to moo. You can't expect Trump to be anything other than what he is.
And I don't even know what that is, to tell you the truth.
And the thing is that what he's shown you to be during moments of stress, because this is a long period, which was the campaign period, to put on the front. During this campaign period, he showed us who he was. He showed us when he was pressed by our press, when he was, in debates. He let you know what his personality was. He let you know who he was. During the course of all the due diligence and all the stuff that came out about him, you know what he is. Somehow we've allowed ourselves, many of our fellow citizens have allowed ourselves because of hatred of Hillary, because of the economy, or because you don't like Obamacare, we've decided we're going to look past all of the frailties and faults that if anyone else was running for this office. And this is really an indictment on the evangelicals. If you are really about the Lord's business and having a proper moral person in the White House, and you choose
Donald Trump,
and Hillary, she this whole FBI thing, you were right about that, Woody. This whole FBI thing, maybe that sways some votes of some people that are up in the air. It sways some people to go the other way, but all this stuff being said, you still choose him. The wild card, because he may cut taxes. The wild card, because he may not do away with the 1031 exchange for real estate investors out here. The wild card, because of TPP. You choose someone because of those things. So I blame the Democrats, because if these things are what's important to the people, the vast majority of the people, then the Democrats should have been all on top of it. Take the topics and the actual policy differences, take that advantage away from Trump. Because I said earlier in the year, I was saying that some of the stuff that he's talking about in regards to the bad trade deals, a lot of us feel like that.
A lot of us feel that way. But I'm really concerned, Ron, whether this country, and when you look at the numbers, it was almost split down the middle in terms of the population. I mean, Hillary won the popular vote. He won the delegates. We all know that. But I'm concerned whether the folks that voted for Trump, how much of it was sexism, because it hasn't been spoken about. But how much of how much of it is the bigotry that he spoke about and the platform that he ran on? How much of him being elected, or their choice for Donald Trump, is those issues? And that's why everyone's marching. Because we just don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. If he sticks to his promises, then he's going to start to move immigrants out. There's going to be, people are panicking. They don't know.
Yeah, and that's what we touched on.
Concern.
Yeah, and that's what we touched on a little bit earlier.
And that's what I'm concerned
about. But the
thing
is, but I do believe that there's a level of practicality in this. Now, the thing is, if he does that, this is the major reason for a lot of the protests is that the anxiety that comes along with him. The people that talk about the popular vote versus the electoral system, it is what it is. Going into it, we knew the rules. We know what it is. We just lost. It's been this way for a long period of time. We don't have to go back through why we have not the popular vote, but the electoral college system. If we had only the popular vote, then only politicians will only campaign in California, New York, and Texas, because if they win the majority of the votes in those states, they may win the national election without paying any attention to Delaware or Nebraska. So it is what it is. But if it's within your power as a citizen to actually come out and vote, and you don't because of apathy or because, oh, no, they're no different. But then again, maybe we're wrong, Woody. Maybe he will turn out and be something different. But if he is, then he's done two things. For one, he's surprised the hell out of me. But secondly, he's written a new playbook of how to win a presidential election. That means you go ahead and galvanize our base, most ignorant, most racist, sexist, misogynistic, xenophobic parts of our nature, and make it as nasty as you can, just because there's a certain element within our society that will respond to that. You tell them what they need so they can be on your team no matter what. So then you can say you can go and grab a woman by the private parts, or you can say this and say that. And no matter what you say, no matter if you don't show your taxes, no matter whether or not your Trump University came out to be a complete hoax, they don't care. They're going to vote for you anyway. So now you got them. So you have a core group of people. Then you turn and pivot, and then you talk to those people that have true, legitimate economic concerns because of the way the country is going, in their opinion, in regards to the trade deals, in regards to the decimation of the manufacturing sector, in regards to the crumbling infrastructure, all this type of stuff. You tell them what they need to know. Okay, and then they'll be on the fence. They'll kind of think about it. Then you throw in there just demonizing your opponent to the point where they don't even seem human anymore, and any move they make, you can just lie and say stuff that's not true, but you can lie, and your core is going to believe you anyway. You just basically run everything through the mud and just make sure that you come out just a little bit cleaner, and that your people are going to be so fanatical they're going to vote for you anyway and make the other person the devil. And now this is a new way to run our politics in the United States. So now we're to the point where we have a first lady who's a former, halfway nude model. If this was Michelle Obama, trust me, they would not even let her near the White House if they had topless pictures of Michelle Obama. But now we have a new first lady, topless pictures of her. She's a former model. We have a 3 times married president who's admitted to sexual assault, groping women, who refused to show his taxes. We have all this stuff. We voted for him anyway.
Yeah,
we as a people.
I'm really ready to move forward, because we all know what happened. We know who this guy presented himself as. We know the mistakes that he's made. We know his bigotry, his language. I don't know his heart. I don't know. I'm hoping, I think we all right now are sitting back hoping and praying that this guy will not be who he presented himself as. But again, my concern is with the half of the country, or whatever the number is, of people that looked past all of those things and said, I want that guy to run the country. That scares me. That really concerns me.
That's true.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but really, people, we are so fed up with our politicians that we chose a guy who is obviously not qualified for the position.
That's right.
Now,
hey, Ray, real quick, let's get the phone number out there. So just in case someone wants to call in, if any callers want to call in, feel free to call in at 323-843-2826. Again, 323-843-2826. Okay, so continue, Woody.
Yeah, it saddens me really, because, you look at the protesting in the street, it looks like a third world country. I mean, you hear about elections and people going to the streets and folks are concerned and they're scared. Now, it's not going to change anything. We all understand that. The people that are marching in the streets understand that it's not going to change, but they are representing the concern of America, which is fine.
Is it still a rigged system? We have a caller calling in. Caller, can I have your name and the city you calling in from, please?
Yes, this is your brother Jaway calling from Los Angeles.
Jaway, thank you for calling in. What do you have for us today, brother?
Oh man, I just want to piggyback on what answer Woody's question. The answer to your last question before I was calling, the answer to that question is yes. The people will pick anybody just because of a distrust in the system. Mm-hmm. And Ron, we talked about this many years ago. Mm-hmm. It's not surprising to me that it has happened because when people don't trust, they will do anything. And it's sad that, we've seen this from Donald Trump, and he ran a campaign the way he ran the campaign. But also what you mentioned earlier, Donald Trump now quickly realized the thing when everything was red, election night, he realized, like, holy crap, this is for real. I am going to be ruling the free world. Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to come to his senses. He's not that ignorant.
I'm hoping he's
not that ignorant. I hope you're right, Francis.
He's not that ignorant. But the reality of it all is what we need to understand from here going forward is, look, it comes down to trust. Mm-hmm. Every relationship is based on trust. And you know what happens if either your spouse or your girlfriend doesn't trust you. He or she will do anything to regain that trust. And that's what happened here. So people voted, people didn't vote. Also, the Democratic Party, I think from this point on, has an opportunity now to regroup and focus on what it needs to focus on, like we talked about
Exactly.
earlier. This is an opportunity. Then the flip side of that is the Republicans have no more excuses.
That's
they
right.
got the Oval Office, they got Congress, they got the House, and then they're going to, get another judge on there. So what we need to be looking at is how this thing will play out, because the dirt that Trump has created, or now he didn't create it, let me take that back. Whatever he's brought in, what was already in existence in America, he now has to manage that.
Yep.
Yeah,
we
just need to play our part. We just need to play our part. That's it.
Thank you, Francis.
Thanks,
Thank you for calling in, my brother. We always enjoy hearing from you.
Have
brother.
a good weekend, my man.
Francis brings up a good point. They have the presidency, they have Congress, both chambers in Congress, the Senate and the House. I think they're going to get something done.
There hasn't been a president this powerful since Reagan, or
probably. Well, President Obama had his first term. He had the very beginning of his first term when he passed the Affordable Care Act. Right. So they have some room. They have some leeway to see how they. I have a very good friend of mine who just pinged me on Facebook saying that I'm mad, saying that Trump is a good man. I don't know Donald Trump. I don't. But I do know what he said. I do know what he has portrayed himself to be. Whether or not he's something different, and because you know him personally, he may be different in person, but what he portrayed to us, not the media. It wasn't the media that came up and told him to tell the group to go F themselves or to make fun of the handicap. It wasn't the media that made him say some of the things that he said that came straight out of his mouth. It wasn't the media that went in when he tweeted out some crazy stuff at 3 a.m. That's coming directly from him. So he may be a good man. I don't know. And hopefully he's a good president. I'm rooting for him to be a good president. But in regards to his moral character and the way he's portrayed the person holding that office, when you compare him and Hillary, for whatever Hillary's faults were, some of them, whoever hate her, at least during the campaign, she acted professional. He didn't. During the course of a campaign, when you're supposed to be at your best behavior, he got worse.
I got a litmus test.
Whenever you have neo-Nazis coming out supporting you, you must be doing something wrong. Because I guarantee you they wouldn't have supported Obama.
If your only daughter brought home a guy who spoke like Donald Trump spoke to women, said he was going to kick Muslims out and created all this all the negativity that this guy, his platform that he ran on, that Donald Trump, our president, Mr. Trump, ran on. How would you look at that guy that was about to marry your daughter? Would you say he's a good man? We don't know. For all you folks out there who are saying Donald Trump is a good man, I'm going to give him the opportunity to prove that he's a good man.
Good
but
man.
All we have right now
for me, whether or not he's a good man, whether or not he'd be a good president.
He's run on and the promises that he has made to get to this position, and unfortunately, half of America supported him in his effort. So let's wait to see if this good man changes his platform from what he's told the nation he was going to do, and the world for that matter, and starts to do some good. Let's see what this good man does.
Let me
and I'm
be,
going to
let
give
me
you
be
the benefit
plain.
of the doubt.
No,
I'm
going to be playing
and
with
say
you. I'm
he's a good
looking
man.
at the. No, he's not a good man. He may end up being a good president in regards to policy, in regards to getting some things done, and that's what we're hoping for. But in regards to who he is and his character as a man, that ship is sailed. He's not a good man. Good men don't say the things that he said in order to get elected. Good men don't talk about Muslims like that. Good men don't talk about women like that. Good men don't say, good men don't do that.
I'm not so sure.
There's an honorable way of doing things. We have. Well, he can change, but does he having power and then change what you have power? Usually, power just brings out more of who you are. But we have a caller calling in. Caller, can I have your name and the city you're calling in from?
Ron, it's Ben. I'm calling you from London.
Ben, how are you? Good to hear from you.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Sharing with me, Ben.
All right. I'm going to say some things, and I want this to stay calm, okay? Because
I'll be in London next month. So
I'm watching this unravel from a distance.
Okay.
Now, I'm glad what you pointed out, Ron, is quite right. He is not a board candidate. Number one, we can, and unless he is, in which case this is the most elaborate ruse that the establishment has ever managed to pull off. Exactly. And I think it would almost be too big for them to do it. So we know he's not a board candidate.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, everything that is, all the aftermath of his election, violence, protesting, and the like, seems to be this notion that these are things which have been born out of Donald Trump being elected. Now, I'm looking at my screen, I'm looking at two African-American men. You both know full well Donald Trump did not give rise to racism in America. This is a problem.
No, but he just brought it out of the hidden corners of the country.
And Ben, I appreciate that, Ben, but that's not what from an African American perspective, we know going back generations that he didn't bring this out. What pisses us off and most African Americans off,
not just African Americans.
This is normalizing and somehow making it legitimate that someone who's done this the way he's done during his campaign is still worthy of becoming president. That's the part that takes him off, if that makes sense.
And it makes perfect sense,
Okay.
and it's a legitimate concern. I'm not denying it.
Okay.
But here's the thing. When I last called your show, it was the day after the Brexit vote.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
And after the Brexit vote, you had people running around the streets telling Pakistani taxi drivers to get back to their own country. The Pakistani taxi drivers, no one from a European country. Okay, these are not thoughts which were held the morning that the Brexit vote happened. People just suddenly felt validated. Now, you and I, we don't want to hear that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you this: if there is a massive contingent in my country, and if I was you, I'm thinking if there is a massive contingent of my country who do feel like this, I want to know what they think, and I want to know what they feel. And if it means if that means them graffitiing it on the side of a wall, that's going to be hard to see. It's going to be hard to look at. It's going to be something which parents are going to have to talk to their children about and educate on.
Ben,
but that is our job, and I think it is a dangerous thing to have people's views in this sense. As much as you and I are going to find these views abhorrent, I don't want them repressed. I don't want them suppressed. It's important that people come out of the woodwork, because then you know what you're dealing with.
Exactly.
And for too long, it feels like America has not fully known what it was dealing with. I was in LA recently, and I spoke to a lot of black people. I was keen to know what their thoughts were about this guy who stood a chance of becoming president. And you know what the most overriding thing was that I heard? They thought, one thing we can't understand is why white people are so surprised that views like this exist.
Yeah.
And by views, I'm talking about the views that were being seen of members of the public suddenly.
Yeah. But this, Ben, I got to cut you short because we don't have much time. But thank you so much for calling, Ben. I always appreciate your call and appreciate you listening. So
nice to hear from you.
Continue to listen.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ben. Now, I got to mention something real quick. We want this to be known. we had President Obama, who won by huge margins in both 2008 and 2012. This tells me that, and we only, as black people and minorities, we only make up 12%, maybe 13% of the population. That means he had a huge portion of the white population to vote for him. So that means that I truly know this and believe this, that there's a portion of the Donald Trump supporters who carry this sickness called racism, but it's not all of them. I don't even think it's the majority of them. I think that there's a willful ignorance and saying they're not voting for Trump because he's done this stuff, but they're voting for him despite this stuff that they don't like. Because many people don't really care for him or what he stands for as a person. They also think that he's repressive. But some of these people think that Hillary's worse, and some of these people just don't like the policies, and they think Trump will be better for the economy. So they're willing to hold their nose and pretend like Trump is that angry old uncle at the table during Thanksgiving that just says crazy stuff, but we know that's Uncle Donald. He just says crazy stuff. Don't pay attention to him. That's the type of mentality some of them may have about Trump. So I don't want people to think that I think that all Trump supporters are racist, because they are not. And I know that for a fact. They are not. There's an element that's in there, but I don't think it's the majority of them.
I agree with you. I don't think that the majority of them are racist. I think people were holding on to hope that the system would change and Donald Trump would be the guy to change that system. But I just, I see people's thoughts and prejudices are validated through his platform, and that scares the shit out of me. They came out of the woodwork, and here they are expecting him to act on some of these things that, quite frankly, are just not possible. You can't kick out Muslims. You can't stop Muslims from coming to the country. You can't build. Listen, we already know. So I don't want to be a Trump basher today, because he is President-elect Donald Trump, and like many folks, I choose to get behind my president and support him. But there are a lot of unanswered questions and concerns that need to be addressed, and people are protesting in the streets because of the platform in which he ran. And that's the crux of it, folks. You got to understand that is what's happening across America. People don't know what to expect from this guy, so he has to tell us what to expect.
Yeah, when you say what to expect from him, this is where he concerned. And I also want to get to my friend Kimball Ford's Facebook mention. But before I get there, I think that Trump, he ran these businesses, and some of them failed, some of them did well, but he's pretty pragmatic at the end of the day. In regards to when he sits down and thinks about something, where I'm concerned with Trump is his lack of discipline in knowing how to control his mouth or control his ego or his impulses. Because when you are that temperamental with the way that remember the pressure and the stresses that were put on him during the presidential campaign that went well over a year.
Oh, that's nothing compared to being in office.
That's nothing compared to being a president, wherein something can fall on your desk that you didn't plan for. And if you can't control yourself, if you can't control your impulses, but at the same time you have an armed forces, you have an army that will, upon your command, act in a certain way. Or if you only have certain people around you, because that also concerns me about Trump. He has I can't remember his name, the guy from Breitbart, Steve Bannon, I think that's his name. He has some of these very fringe characters that he's incorporated. He's always been into the conspiracy theory. You have someone with this type of ego, these types of belief. Remember, he's the one that was saying he was sending people to Hawaii to check whether or not President Obama has a birth certificate or he was born in Kenya, just to feed into that. That takes a certain type of mentality. Now, because of some of us wanted some economic boost, we're going to risk that mentality being in the ultimate seat, hoping that Congress can somehow control them, which they've learned throughout the course of the campaign that they can't control them, or you're going to depend on that mentality to control himself. So what we're all praying and hoping for is that he proves all of us wrong. I do not want the Trump from the campaign. In regards to all of these protests, I think it's incumbent upon him to come out and say, we all need to come together. I hear your voices. You know, you are the people, and I am going to be your president. I'm going to address your needs. You know, let's be peaceful. And he's going to have to apologize for some of the things that he said, because these are things that he started. He lit this match. Now, some of the protesters, you can't say that man for man in regards to the protesters, because some of the protesters, like I said, are just crying and whining because they lost. If you're crying and whining because you lost, then you need to just go home.
Right, get over it.
If you're crying and lying because you don't like the quality of the person, okay, you have your voice, you can protest. And if you're crying and lying, if you didn't vote, then you just need to go home and shut up and read a civics book and learn why we have an electoral college system instead of
and let me address this violence that they're showing on television with these kids pulling this guy out of the car because he voted for Trump. That is not the Democratic. That is violence. Does not solve this, this issue.
We got another caller. Caller, can I have your name and the city you're calling in from, please?
You got to turn your radio down, sir.
Can you hear me, caller?
Turn your device down.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, caller.
Okay, caller, can I have your name and the city you're calling in from, please?
My name is Gareth Jarvis. I'm calling from Dallas, Texas.
Hey, thank you for calling, Dareth. Oh, Dareth Jarvis. How's it going?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I want to hear your words on this.
Man, it's been a rough couple days.
Yeah.
Sure. But hey, you know, I wanted to call in because I've been struggling with whether or not to make a Facebook post, whether or not to let people in on my thought.
Your political views. You do live in Texas, I understand.
Well, my political views don't align with the political views of the majority in Texas for sure, but you know, I mean, I'm a veteran first of all.
Happy Veterans Day.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for your service.
We
only got 15 seconds, Jarvis. Man. That's right. So come on.
We got 15 seconds, Jarvis. What you got for us, man?
Well, I just want to say, hey, I think we got to give the guy a chance.
I'm with you, Darryl.
I'm a Hillary supporter, but I think we got to give the guy a chance.
We agree.
And I think a lot of that comes from the respect for the commander-in-chief position and my service in the military.
That's so true.
Thanks very much,
Dareth,
man.
thank you so much for calling in. It's always good to hear from you, and I'm so grateful that you decided to listen. Please continue to do so, okay?
All right,
thanks. I will, sir.
All right, thank you. And thank you for your service, Dareth.
Yeah, and folks, that's what it boils down to, is we've got no other choice but to support the president of the United States of America.
You should have no other choice but to support. Dareth says something that's so real and so huge, and Dareth is an honorable man, and what he said is this: the same way with those people that disagree with President Obama, respect the position, respect that post of President of the United States. However you feel about this, however I feel about our President-elect Trump as a man, I respect that office that he holds. Hopefully he will respect the office that he holds and conduct himself accordingly. But we as citizens have to respect that office. We can't be what some opposition to President Obama was back when he first took office, when Mitch McConnell and the Republicans said, we're going to be sure to make it so that he can't pass anything, so he'll be a one-term president.
Our main objective is to make him a one-term president.
Our main objective. We can't be them. We need to be supportive, because when the president wins, we all win. If he has a good presidency, it's because he helped the country move forward. And I think we have another caller. Caller, can I have your name and the city you're calling in from, please? And we only have like 20 seconds, okay?
Hey, what's up, Ron? This is Charles Townsell calling from Saginaw, Michigan.
Charles, good to hear from you. Saginaw, stand up.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man, I'm gonna make it quick, man. Okay. My thing is this. I'm very wary of this, because what a lot of people don't know is that Donald Trump's father was very involved with the Ku Klux Klan, and they've come out to support him as well. So that makes a lot of people nervous just with that. The only thing I can say is that I'm praying for the man. I'm hoping he's going to make the right decisions and everything.
Yeah. Thank you, Charles.
Praying
Thank
for
you.
him is the right.
That's right.
Right
It's the right thing to do, and he's going to have eyes on him. People get
yeah,
out
all the time.
Yep. Thanks for calling in, Charles.
Thanks, Charles.
People
For sure.
mobilize, get out there, and next time is election time. In 2 years, you get out there and you vote. We got another caller. Caller, can I have your name and the city you're
In the
calling in
meantime,
from,
make
please?
your voice heard.
Carla Nauer from Alaska.
Hi,
Hi.
Carla. How are you in Alaska?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm trying to keep warm.
Trying to keep warm. Hey, talk to us.
He
Tell me
won
what-
Alaska overwhelmingly, didn't he?
Yeah, he did win Alaska. Yeah, he didn't like
It's
any
hard coming
government.
from a blue state living in a red state. That it
Yeah,
is.
I understand. So, talk to me, Carla. Tell me what you think. We got a few seconds.
Well, beyond being viscerally heartbroken for all the social issues and whatnot, but going to my point that I wanted to bring up is that he used to be Democrat.
Yeah.
Do you think that possibly once he gets in office, he might start to lean towards those values again, and that all this hate and stuff that he was spewing, he just kind of did that to get elected? Once he's in, that he might possibly maybe surprise us?
Well, I'm hoping that's the case.
Thank you. I'm going to let Woody respond to that off the air. Carla, thank you for calling in.
Thanks, Carla.
Thank you so much for listening, too. Okay,
Yeah,
and stay warm up
You're
there.
welcome.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
All right. Woody, you wanted to reply to Carla? Then I'll
I mean,
chime
I
in.
think that's what our fingers are crossed that he gets in there and he makes the changes that he says he's going to. I'd like to see him affect the inner cities because that's a democratic value, although we haven't really effectively gone in there and changed and rebuilt the inner cities and reinvested in our inner cities across America. I mean, there's some things in his platform that I support. I mean, I want to see him get in there. And, quite honestly, I was saying to someone the other day, maybe he'll get in there and grab Bernie. He's always talking about how he likes Bernie Sanders. Bring him inside the cabinet. I mean, if he really wants to shake things up, he's got no alliances to anyone. He can pretty much go in and do whatever he'd like. And if he wants to change Washington, break the rules. I mean, they're not necessarily they're unwritten rules, but, change it up a little bit. And I'm hoping that that Democratic side of him will come out and start to lead the country and kind of mix some of those issues, some of those
I actually
platforms
think
together.
that if he's smart, he will do that. And the thing is that certain things that he can't put certain genies back in the bottle. The only thing that can speak for him now are policies. His actions, if he actually does what the Democrats said they would do but never did in regards to jobs, in regards to education, in regards to, which is huge. And if he goes in and puts a major infrastructure package in and redoes and decides to fix the water system in Flint, Michigan, I'm going to look at Donald Trump differently in regards to policy. What he can't put back in the bottle with me is the things he said to get to this point. He's very Machiavellian if he's the type that will say and go down in the dirt and say whatever it takes, thinking that the ends justify the means, because I do think there's a sense of nobility that has to come along with running for the highest office in the land. But that's just me. So in regards to those things, you can't put that genie back into the bottle. But for me not to completely, be dejected by the side of this dude, it would take policy differences. And if he does with this Republican Congress, if he does right by the people of the United States, by all of the people in the United States, then that's going to tell me something. Okay, that's really going to tell me something. So, and this Bernie Sanders thing, I know Bernie's I think maybe Bernie could have won. I really think that. I think
I think it would have been a totally different race.
I think
Had
Bernie
Trump
could
stuck
have
to
won.
but
Yeah.
Who
I mean,
knows?
if that sentiment
Woulda,
was
coulda,
out
shoulda.
there,
Yeah.
because there are, those people, like we said, there are those basket of deplorables, the ones that we were talking about that, because of some xenophobic or racist slant, they decided to vote for Trump. But put them off to the side. They've always been here. They'll probably always be here. But just put them off to the side. But the other people that voted for Trump because of economic purposes or just because they hate Hillary, some people just hated Hillary that much. Those people, if they didn't have Hillary in the mix and they had Bernie in the mix, and Bernie was still talking and speaking that same populist message in regards to infrastructure spending, in regards to education, and he didn't have that baggage that Hillary had, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
But it is what it is. Bernie's not there. But that does bring up another question, and that question is, who's going to lead the Democratic Party now? Once President Obama is there, because they were all riding President Obama's coattails. Okay. And before I go there, I have to mention some of my primary sponsors. First, I'm going to go to Javago Watches. Javago premium timepieces in men's and women's fashions. Go to www.javagowatches.com. Choose a style. Then go over to Amazon and see if you can find that same style on Amazon, because you might be able to get it for a discount. So Javago Watches, one of our primary sponsors. Another one is Hope for Adam, which I will always bring up on this show until we find a bone marrow donor match for Adam. Adam is a great guy, father of 3. Over 20 million people have been tested to see whether or not they're a genetic match.
Wow, 20 million people.
Over 20 million people worldwide have been, and he hasn't found a match yet. But out of Adam did this from the bottom up. Him and his family put together this entire donor drive, and his friends, and it's become global. And he's saved lives based on the work that he's done to try to find a match for himself. So it's time for that to come back to Adam now. So if you haven't been tested, it's just a simple cotton swab. Go to join.hopeforadam.com or go to www.hopeforadam, and it's the number 4.com, and see your local testing center where you can be tested to see whether or not you can be a match for Adam.
Yep.
And Adam, get better soon.
Get better, Adam.
Okay? And lastly, so we can leave out of this on a good note, I'm going to mention NanoBright. NanoBright is nutrition for the skin. Is vitamin C and vitamin B3 ingredient package. All organic ingredients go into the skin cream, and it is wonderful with hyperpigmentation. If you have scarring, or if you have olive color or darker skin, and if you get a zit or something that heals up and it gets darker, this is great at evening skin tone. If you are of a paler complexion and you have sun damage, this helps reverse sun damage. It's fantastic for your skin. Go to nanobright.com. That's NANOBRYTE.com. And if you put in promo code SKIN, you can get $10 off. So I suggest the bottles are pretty small. You have to use it like twice a day. And so I suggest you getting 2 bottles of it, because once you see how it works, you'll want to start in on your second bottle pretty much immediately. So back to it, the few minutes we have on the show. What's next for the Democrats, Woody? What do you think? Do you think that Bernie's going to, after President Obama leaves, because everybody follow him, obviously Hillary's going to go off into the sunset?
Well, I think the Democrats have to rally together and really make sure. I think they're going to have to be gatekeepers at this point to make sure that some of these policies that don't get enacted. I don't know what's in store for the leadership of the Democratic Party. I know Bernie Sanders should be somewhere at the top there and continue with his agenda. Yeah. Hillary should stick around. I think she should be utilized in some form or fashion, some capacity. She's got to be tired, worn out, very disappointed. I mean, can you imagine how she felt the day after or that night? Democrats, I mean, they said the Republican Party needed a whole overhaul. And they never got their overhaul. It's just gotten worse, I think, with the Republican Party. And I think the Democrats are in a better stance in terms of what their agenda is overwhelmingly between the Democratic Party.
I think the Democrats, and you make some good points there, Woody. I think the Democrats need to just they need to do what they say they're going to do. Because one of the reasons why some of these places, let's say in Pennsylvania, in the T section of Pennsylvania, where you have the white working class, or in Indiana, or Iowa, places like that, where some of them, not Indiana, because that's never been really Democratic, but in Wisconsin, which has been Democratic, or Michigan has been Democratic. Some of those places where the white working class went Republican this time, it was because the Democrats didn't say do what they say they're going to do. Lots of times, we used to be the party of the working man, to help the working man make a good salary, have a decent, stable job to raise their children and to support their families. And we've gotten away from that on the Democratic side. I think we've gone too much to the corporate, the liberal corporate side of the Democratic Party, where instead of dealing with somebody working at the machine shop in Russell, Kansas, instead of that, we're dealing with Silicon Valley executives. Both may or may not have been Democrats, but one of them thought the Democratic Party is for the working man. Now it's only for the working rich. The Democrats have to get that out of their system. Somehow we need to go back to our roots and do things that are going to really benefit the working class person, and that's of all races, but not just talk about it, do it. I still think to this day, it still kind of ticks me off, and you may hear it in my voice, that Flint, Michigan is still in the situation it's in. It's 2, maybe 3 years now, and Flint, Michigan, used to be a major American city, still doesn't have water. That makes no sense. There are places in sub-Saharan Africa where you get some, George Clooney or Sean Penn or some, rich liberal that go over there and provide water for a whole town. But yet here, and still in the United States, we have a city, one of our major cities, the birthplace of General Motors. A lot of people don't know that. They think General Motors started in Detroit. No, General Motors started in Flint. The birthplace of General Motors, and they don't have their water situation fixed after all these years. And it's a Democratic town. We need to do better as Democrats. Maybe this is our chance to finally put up or shut up. And we can't be mad if Donald Trump, this fool who happened to...
Hey, he's the president-elect. We got to respect him.
You're right.
And,
you're right.
We hope he can get in there and make some changes and affect the country in a positive manner.
Well, this guy that acted like a fool.
He acted like a fool.
During the campaign, maybe he'll pivot and show me that he has some sense, and I'm praying that he does. Everyone, thank you so much for starting your weekend off with us. It'll be okay. We got plenty more to talk about. Life goes on. The shock of it will wear off eventually. Wait until January when he actually gets into the office. And I'm telling you, all of us are going to miss President Obama and Michelle Obama.
Sure
because
without a doubt.
The level of class that they brought to the White House is something that we can be proud of. Now, I don't know much about Melania Trump, and I'm sure she's a classy individual. But the way, again, President-elect Trump got into office kind of leaves me with not much to say in regards to his level of class or dignity in that office. But again, like what he said, he's my president, so hopefully he'll prove me wrong and make a pivot and become civilized. Thank you again for joining us on another edition of Focus with Ron Frierson, and we will see you next week.